Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Becoming Podcast. My name is Sunny, and I have my co host Tammy with me. And today we have another guest for you to share her becoming story. And as you know, we have been traveling along this journey for my MPH program. And so we have finally come to the finale episode of what is my capstone project. And we hope to continue on sharing these beautiful becoming stories with you all. So for now, I would like to introduce Maureen, our guest today. And so Tammy, she was reached out to her network and we got an amazing yes. And so, Tammy, I'm going to kick it off to you to get us started.
Thank you, Sunny. So, Maureen, we always kick it off with when the outreach came and we asked you to join, what inside you said, yes, I'm going to say yes to coming onto this podcast because you're very busy.
Well, it was a no-brainer because I think it's so important to share these stories. When you wrote that it's about sharing your story of becoming, I went, oh, absolutely yes. That is so important so people can understand what we go through
Hmm.
as people who are awakening to our deeper purpose. And our stories are just magic.
Yes. I describe you as a teacher of the ages. And so I say that because you've written two books, Luminous Spaces and my uh, current fave, The Enchanted Earth. I don't know if it's coming through, and all my little yellow stickers. And that doesn't count for all my pen marks. That's just my yellow stickers where I go to. So those two books, plus you have your whole platform on the Luminous Spaces website where you're teaching classes on geomancy and land, talking with the land, and you have spiritual mentorship. I mean, you have a full umbrella of what you offer. But the thread that runs through it is, and it's something that you even talk about in your book, is that the connection to nature. Nature connected living is exactly the way that you write it, actually. So tell us how the journey of your becoming, how did you kind of move into this journey of nature connected living and arrive at uh, writing a Amazon five-star reviewed book?
Well, thank you, Tammy. Yeah, so I think the impetus of all of this came the night that I was laid off from my corporate marketing.
Mm,
September 29th, 2004.
mm,
That date is emblazoned in my mind because I, as many of us who've gone through layoffs, was driving home and let me just preface this with I was opening up to my more spiritual um, underpinnings, things that I always loved: meditation, yoga, astrology. Dreams. I was going down this path of learning more, and I was desperately wanting to leave my job,
hmm.
sitting there every day going, "Oh, I can't take it anymore." And this comes from somebody who, for 25 years, loved my job.
Mm,
So I had this growing inside me. And I'm so grateful that I didn't just walk in and quit. I was actually laid off because there was a series of layoffs going over the course of a few years. But I remember leaving going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
mm.
And I went to bed that night with, of course, this very heavy on my mind, like what was next? And I had a dream.
Ooh.
I woke up the next morning very confused, but the dream was very clear that I was looking to, in the dream, I was in the mayor's office in New York City, and we were talking about how the rise in violence was because of the lack of trees. And the deer was actually very vivid in the dream too. It was a very big player in the dream. But I had, now I'm not an angel person. I've never been somebody who connects in with my angels, although over the year, more recent years, I am. But at this time, this was back in 22 years ago, an angel was sitting next to me, and I was the only one that
Mm.
could see her. I knew. And she was just sitting there. And I just thought, okay, this is an important dream. But I woke up going, what am I supposed to do? Work for urban planning for New York City? I mean, I was just like, what? So it took years. It took years to unfold, and it still unfolds. But a couple of years later, I was really inspired to learn feng shui, and it was kind of like an immediate, like spontaneous thing that I had to do. And I was sitting in class the first day going, oh my gosh, I need to learn this. But even then, I mean, it took me a couple of years to realize that feng shui was part of that calling to nature. And
Hmm.
then, as you probably know, um, biophilic design came onto uh, my awareness back in 2008, and I realized, wow, that's about bringing nature indoors. And there's a real resonance here because it includes evidence, the research behind it as to why
Yes.
we need nature in our lives. So that just really excited me. But all the meantime in the background was this real interest in dowsing. And I
Yeah.
saw that I kind of had a gift for it. So I started doing that as well. So that was kind of the main impetus for my journey. It unfolded slowly, a little frustratingly, more than I had hoped, but it has unfolded, and here I am 22 years later.
And I
Yeah.
think it's
I
so
love
funny
the
because,
honesty.
yes. And I think that it's such an interesting path that you had where it was you kind of started learning about it and then you kind of were like, what else am I going to do? But really engulf myself in this because I was telling Tammy when she was sharing a little bit about kind of like, what you teach about. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love learning about feng shui. Like, very novice, very much so, just kind of like, but it came from being in such a place of feeling of like chaos that I was like, I will try anything that can get my chakras, my alignment, my home, my space, anything to try to get some sort of order or put the good vibes out. And so that's where I kind of slowly was like, let me Google this thing that I know I've heard about, that like your room and your, if you design it a certain way. And so actually, after I got to see Tammy again for the first time, once Mel passed, I gave her a plant. And I was like, when I was reading about feng shui, I was like, I heard that this plant is really good to have in your home. And so that is when I brought it over. And I was like, I feel like you need this right now.
And it's right there. I get to look at it through the whole podcast every day, all day. Yeah. So thanks for saying that, Sunny, because it's kind of what you're saying, Maureen, in that 20 the on what I was going to say is like the honesty of a 22-year journey, because I think people think, oh, feng shui, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go do it hard, and that's what it's going to be. But you stayed in an open space technology, they call it, which is like, oh, I have an interest to go there. Let me try that. That interest led to this. And then here we are at this, right? So part of what we're curious about in the whole aspect of connecting with nature, how much time did you spend in nature to pick up the cues to take the next move, or was it much more organic than that?
Haha, organic. Um,
Mhm.
it was organic. I did spend a lot of time in nature, of course. A lot of time I would go to the beach when I was really working on both books, I think. I for several years, because the books took several years to write. Um, Actually, not really write, but come up with the right structure and the flow of what I was going to do. And the ocean really helped with that flow. And I would just sit there alone. I would go alone with just the minimal things I needed and would just sit and write in my journal and write on pieces of paper and read and, like you're saying, bookmark and highlight and dog
Yes.
pages of books. It was a lot of that experience, but it also was this unfoldment, certainly. When I started feng shui school, I was even, I even said to myself then, this is part of my journey. This isn't it. I don't think this is it, but it's part of it. And it became a very big part of it because well, I've been teaching feng shui certification now since 2009, and I have my own school. So 5 years
Yeah.
I taught it at an interior design school. And then for the past 12 years, I've been teaching it in my online school. So it was even, I was even aware at the very beginning that this was part of the journey. And I think the best part, what I guess I'm most grateful for learning feng shui, is this poetic language
Hmm.
that is about our being part of nature. And I see feng shui as being more relevant now than ever before because we're living in man-made environments. Feng shui is about bringing ourselves back into balance with
Yeah.
our true nature, with our
Yeah.
soul, with our inspiration, with our intuitive connection with the divine, or whatever
Yes.
we want to call it. And feng shui is a path to that. It's one of
Yeah.
many, but it is one path that I really, really dove deeply into.
Which you're hitting on, we believe, and we really um, trust that our guests do before they even come on, that everything is energy, because people talk about feng shui and you can make it complicated or you can make it very easy, which is like hold this thing and does it feel good? Go in this corner of your house and does it feel good? And start moving things, because you've come to my home before and I've done all the recommendations, and I was going to say to have you say a couple snippet on dowsing for people that might not know about it, but you came to my land. We spoke to my land together, and we cleared a lineage of pain on my land that went long before I bought my land. I mean,
Mm,
the long before. Sonny, just as reference, you've been to my house, and everybody on
mhm,
my side of the road for miles on my road had infidelity.
mm,
My neighbors, everybody, right? And then me. And so I called Maureen. I was already a student of hers in one of her classes, a biophilic design class. And then I learned more, and she came to the land and she cleared the land. She cleared the land so much that out of nowhere appeared fairy circles on my property and my neighbor's property, because there were with dragon lines, harsh lines across my property. And she had this all mapped out before she arrived at my house, by the way. So I could see it on paper, but within 24 hours after she left, these fairy circles popped up with huge white mushrooms. I'll post them in the thing because it's part of the essence of who you are, Maureen. It's part of the essence of, your becoming and what you are allowing the land to become. Because if I had not had you come here and do what we did out there, who knows? Who knows, right? So you are allowing Mother Nature to become also. It's like a parallel, and I love that you reference it as a calling. So just maybe a snippet on dowsing in case people don't know.
Sure. So these are dowsing rods, and people have seen them before, probably. And people walk across the land holding them, and then they move and they cross and they circle and do all sorts of stuff. And most of my work, actually, well, really 100% of my geomancy projects are map dowsing. So, like I did with Tammy, I I received kind of like a property survey. I did a little outline of her property, and I with a finger, it's like you're walking the property and I'm holding one of the rods and receive my responses. And thank you for bringing that up, Tammy, because there was something that was so unusual. And I love when this happens, and I feel like it's happening more than ever, is when when I did your property, Tammy, I received all these circles, these vortex energies going kind of in a line.
Yes.
And it was, I was so confused. I was like, why are there all these little spirals of energy? And there was like maybe 10 of them. And I was so confused. I was like, what is that? And then I remember sitting with you, sharing it with you at your home, and your eyes went wide and you went, my neighbor calls them fairy circles, and they opened up just this morning.
Yes.
And
Yeah. And we have huge pictures.
it was
Yeah.
just so incredible. It was a journey that we went on together. It was kind of like a new opening of information for me as a practitioner. And of course, for you, seeing this energy, uh,
Release, freeing the land.
but it was physically manifesting on the land. So it was this like, oh my gosh, how does this happen? And that was just a wonderful, I guess, confirmation of how energy can manifest physically. And
Hmm.
it was a wonderful experience for both of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the circles that you laid out on the map, when I watch people sit in my home, I see where they go and I look at the map and there are vortexes inside that people just are naturally drawn to. Even when I try to get them to convene where I've cooked or where I've got a conversation, no, everybody lands in the same. So I gave up. And I even say eat over there if you want, because I know your body wants to be where that blind spring is, because it's near the blind spring underneath. And people just want to be there. You can't see it, but are dowsing. Anyway, short and long story that you gave permission for this land we through our ceremony, and it has never felt the same. And I highly recommend, if you have not had an experience of having someone assess your land and the energy around you, to do so, because it I would not have known that there were some angry lines running through here. I knew there was trauma on the whole side of my block for miles because I got the phone calls and then it was me. So I was like, this is not coincidence that seven people over my 20 some years here have had that same, and not on the other side of the street. Okay, enough on that.
And also, I feel like it's different than when you know that there was a power plant that was there some years ago and
Yeah.
everybody's popping up with cancer because, the elements are still in the
Yes.
air and they're still affected. Like that's totally different where you're kind of like, nah, yeah, it makes sense. Like, that's not really a
Yeah.
coincidence. You all live in this area that's toxic
Yes.
versus a personal situation that's dealing with relationships and right, what are the chances that we all have dealt with this same situation. We all live on the same side of the street. Like that really feels like, again, the energy was connecting some way, somehow. And I
Yeah.
mean, what a gift to give your neighbor that, they didn't really have
Yes.
to do a whole lot of work, but just live next door to you and bring in
Yeah,
the
and
right
they did
person.
ceremonies. They were doing ceremonies around these fairy circles until the fairy circles they come up and come down seasonally and this when they want to, obviously. But there were I mean, I have video clips of them doing ceremonies around it. But I want to go back to your time in nature by the ocean, because I'm going to say something about um, the distinct difference that you write about in your book. It's on page 210, and I had it already start because I think it's critical. Um, the difference between going out in nature for a kayak or for a hike or for a park, going to a park for a walk, is subtly different than using in the book you describe it as using nature as an activity versus spending time and connecting to nature. The subtlety of you going to the ocean to connect with her, to share a conversation for your writing is so different than going to the beach saying, I'm connecting with nature and I'm going to go swimming, and you never have a conversation with the ocean the whole time you're there. So I think the reason why I'm quoting from the book is because there's just such a distinct difference of spending time in nature versus connecting. So what are some of the ways in your becoming story that you know were like, when I had this moment with nature and this happened next?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, and I just want to preface it with it's just a mindset
Hmm.
that you can shift is going into, well, we're in nature all the time because this is all nature, right? But communing in with nature with that intention. That's all it is.
Hmm.
So there's two stories. Should I do the tree or water?
Can do both.
Okay. Well, I'll do the water first. So I went to visit Scotland. This is in the book too. I went in to visit Scotland and I was writing my book. I mean, I was like finishing off my book and I was looking for inspiration to have an experience to add to the book. So I am part Scottish, so I was looking for some deep ancestral kind of feeling when I was there. And although the places were magical and beautiful, there was none of that like deep resonance within me until I visited fairy pools. And that is on the Isle of Skye. And it was actually kind of by chance that we went. I was being very cognizant of not trying to plan every little step of the trip and just letting it flow. And I asked my husband, do you want to go to fairy pools or you just want to go to the town and check in to our hotel and just kind of chill? And he said, no, let's go to fairy pools. So we went and it was St. Patrick's Day. So it was cold and it was a little rainy. I think we had a little bit of rain that day. And so anyhow, we parked, we got out. There were a lot of people there, believe it or not. Um, And this landscape was in front of me. It's called the Black Coolin Mountains or Black Coolin Hills, really. And the land slopes down, and then you have to walk into this like bowl, and there's a ribbon of a river with all these waterfalls and pools. So
Mm.
I'm standing at the top of this bowl, and it wasn't just gravity, but there was this magnetic pull
Hmm.
right here from my heart into the
Mm.
landscape. It was just like inevitable. I felt like I was just like being pulled right in. And I felt like I couldn't open my eyes wide enough to see the landscape.
Mm.
Like I just remember my eyes being wide open and like feeling like I just couldn't take it all in at once. So we go and there's people and we want to walk past all the people because as you know in these places there are people that are just going for the activity or to check it off their list or to do an Instagram shot. So we walk past the end of the gravel path into just a rock scramble and we find our way down to the river and we take our shoes off and our socks, our boots and socks, and we put our feet in the river and we sit there for a few moments and then the shocking cold sets in. We're like, whoa. But it was like, wow. And I'm looking at this landscape just like, wow. And then finally, it's like, okay, after a few minutes, That was enough. My feet are numb. So I take my feet out. I'm drying them off with my wool socks and I'm just putting them back in my boots and tying up my boots. I stand up and suddenly the tears just burst out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they came from. There was no uh, pre pre thought about feeling emotional. It was just like boom. And I'm standing there and tears are just flying out of me. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I'm like, all right. And I dry my tears up and we walk back to the car. And the key part of this is I forgot about it. And
Mm.
we continue on with our trip because I'm the one who's the planner. So I've got, okay, this is where we have to go for the hotel, blah, blah, blah. This is what we're doing tomorrow. And we had some amazing hikes, really beautiful. But the thing is, I forgot about this experience. 2 weeks later, I'm home and I connect in with one of my friends who's very psychic. And she knows me, like knows the heart of me. She knows what to ask of me. She's like sees right through me. So we get on Zoom and she goes, how was Scotland? And I'm like, oh great, oh my God, it was amazing. And she goes, you had a place that felt like home. Where was it? And I'm like, what? I don't know what she's talking about. And then all of a sudden it came flooding back,
Mm-hmm.
burst out crying again. And I
Yeah.
sat there and I went, how could I have forgotten about this?
Mm-hmm.
Especially writing this book, having this need to have this experience. So it was just this whole experience that was just absolutely magical, enchanted, brought me in deep connection with my ancestors. I
Yeah.
know for sure that if I hadn't put my feet in the water, I would not have had that
Yeah.
emotion. Like the water carried the DNA
A
of the
100%.
memory, right? Of the
Yeah.
trauma of
Yeah.
separation from this land.
Yes.
I did
Yes.
find that I hadn't known that my clan was from the Isle of Skye at all. I thought it was on the mainland. But when I was walking around the town, there were all these war memorials with my name, Matheson, written all over it. And I realized that my
Yes.
ancestors were here.
Yeah, we would say in the water language that your waters had recognition with her waters, and that crying, that beautiful release was like you describe a coming home to each other. And I love that you mentioned it was cold water because cold water experiences bring about a much deeper connection. If you think about any time you go into cold water, kind of the first, especially like a cold jump or your feet, and you go, oh God. And you don't say, oh God, by accident. Some
Mm.
people say, oh God, Jesus, right? But that you almost automatically say that and water that is more viscous, cold, more plasmic in nature is more structured, holds more memory. So you were in like cold plunges and all of that they're talking about these days have a very rooted nature in the way that we can take it in, different than bulk water, different than stagnant water. You went into cold, clean, structured water and had instant recognition. And there's science now to back up that experience as much as it was spiritual.
And I can only imagine that Tammy would have been like, collect the tears and keep them and
Yes,
save them and use them.
yes. I was
Tammy would
like,
have been like, that's good, right?
wait.
Keep crying, do it again.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, I've heard it just gives me goosebumps. So yeah, water. Yeah, I'm glad that came out. A lot of the book is it has trees. I have the whole section And I could talk about your other book, but I'm just enthralled with this one. You have a whole thing on healing waters. Just so, I mean, this is one story, but there's story after story like that. And I think that I mean, there's many stories in here. There's a chapter on the trees. So tell us your tree story because we
Yeah.
want to hear it and see it as part of your becoming. And then Sunny asks you some more like more direct, like distinct questions because
I know I
we're
feel bad that I'm kind of like the negative Nancy that's like, let's talk about the getting fired from your job part though.
do it because that was the impetus.
Right.
That was the gift of nature. That was the gift, believe it or not. We wouldn't have the teacher of the ages in the same way at this time. Probably, it definitely probably would have came out, but like we have you now. We
Hmm.
have you now saying, look at all the people that are talking to the trees. It's not your crazy neighbor. It's many, many thousands of millions of people who now can actually give and receive in communication. If you're structured enough, if you're open enough, if when I say structured, my belief is that your water, your coherent field of your body is able to receive those messages. You're not in a, stagnant in a bulk water, but um, you just keep opening up to that. And sadly, and which we know is traumatic experiences, structures, restructures all of your water in your body. And oftentimes that triggers such a dysregulation that your body's going to find whatever it needs to co-regulate. And if that's feng shui, if that's dowsing, if that's helping others, if that's putting your feet in water, if it's hugging a tree, if it's getting together on a podcast, your body will find a way to co-regulate as long as you stay open to it. And that's the hard part because you said, like, I don't know where this feng shui class is leading me, but I'm called to it. But I'm called to it.
Yeah.
Sunny.
I didn't know if we wanted to go into the tree story first, but so I guess kind of going back to this catastrophic moment of you're
Shoot,
doing the
must.
things, you're going, you have this life that you were living that in your mind, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so when it came to an end, what did that kind of do for you? Like, what was the kind of, I'm just surviving because I don't know right where I'm supposed to be going? Can you kind of talk about what did that process feel like before we're, authoring books that are doing the things and teaching the people? Let's go back to that. Oh my
Yes.
gosh,
Yes.
now what?
Yes. Yeah. It was a real challenge. I was, as I said, it was probably a year before I was laid off that I was really not fulfilled at all by my work. So, but of course, it was my income, right? And it was who I was. So, when this happened, I was very lucky to have a severance package and unemployment. So, I was okay for a good 6 months to just kind of figure out who Maureen is. And I reconnected with astrology because it was something that I loved. I started learning about astrology when I was 12 and did my own birth chart, and I was probably like 13, 14 and read everything I could. But then I got disconnected from that and then focused on, business. So, and then of course having a family too and all that. So when I was laid off, I recognized that there was a very interesting transit in my chart. Saturn hit my midheaven, which for those who don't know astrology, it just means that it literally means you would be suddenly let go from your work, or you would leave your career. It's kind of like a big boom, like,
That
okay, that's gone, and now you're. So when I saw that, I went, oh my goodness, there's something here for me to study again. So astrology really helped me understand and it continues to help me understand who I am. I'm still learning that, right? So that helped get me through, plus my dreams. And, in the meantime, I was getting marketing freelance projects. So I was working in marketing for a good number of years after this happened, but I was exploring this other side of me until I uncovered feng shui. But yeah, it was a very ungrounded feeling
Mm-hmm.
because you're following a certain path, and it's like, all right, then this is going to happen and then that's going to happen. And I worked for the same company for 10 years, which was pretty long. And like I said, I had this like persona who I was, and then suddenly I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a
You-
very ungrounded, but also there was excitement because I felt like there was something in my future that was really pulling my attention to say, look
Mm-hmm.
here. And I'd go off, look here. And I was really exploring that. I was going down all the little paths, meeting
Wonderful.
people. And there was so many people that I look back that were such mentors to me. So it was a woman who did astrology, who read my chart, and then welcome me back. She also did like coaching and mentoring. So I would sit with her and, I would go to her. Then there was another woman who was a naturopath who also had this gift that she saw past lives.
Mm.
I went to her several times, and she
Yeah.
helped illuminate certain things about me and who I was. It felt so deeply resonant, like I needed freedom. And that was like, whoa, that is such a call for me. I needed adventure. And I needed, like, she saw me like charging across the field with a flag. And I'm like, that is me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's somebody I've been denying all these years.
Oh, yes, I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
Because
that's what
everyone,
we kind of, everybody we talk to, there is
yeah,
whatever their journey has been, whatever this moment has been, that they realize that I wasn't as authentic then as I have been able to be now, even if that is obviously right, still a work in progress. But if it weren't for this situation, I wouldn't have ever realized I
yeah,
wasn't that person that was
yeah.
walking around doing the day to day.
And and this is huge, you had the courage, and this is why the Becoming podcast is in the reclamation station. It's part of the trademark. The reclamation station, the whole thing is returning to sovereignty. And this is why we post them there. And you had the courage. Nah, and this is why I think it's so important for people to hear your story, because I always like to ask, and I know there's going to be someone that hears you. And what we've heard you say, and this is confirming what Sunny always says, is you're talking about community of women, right? And you don't know how you touch people. I mean, we were just on a podcast the other day, Sunny, and a woman was crying and saying to Sunny, like, you were my person that got me through this period. And so we have that.
Mhm.
We're lucky to have what you're describing, or the mentors along the way. You talked about using astrology, and I like to put a little list together, because when we put this out into the world, we like for just people to see a quick glance of like astrology, what you did, you followed the calling, you were in nature, dreaming.
Big time.
So
Dreaming is
I'm like,
unpacking your
Maureen,
dreams.
when we get off of this thing, you want to do mine? Because I,
Yes, we're all the ways to help. So tell me, we have a little bit of time left, because this is like we could go. We do this, Maureen, right? And Sunny and I, we could go on for hours about this.
yes.
But I really want people to hear it. They're going to hear themselves in the "I got laid off," and I had the ungrounding experience, and Maureen followed the whispers, and I have some too. So what if I followed that dream I had or that whisper I had? What if I did that? Could I be like Maureen?
And I think that that's a part of also just sometimes needing that push that you didn't know what the push was going to be. But as you said, this wasn't a completely offshoot thing that you never even could have, you were dabbling and, you were studying, but not to the extent that you really thought that it would take you to. But I feel like, again, there's so many of the women that we talk to that can say, I liked that thing in
Mhm.
that other version of myself, but then this happened and I could really start exploring it. And, sometimes it's painting or, just taking time to read and learn. And again, for me, like even going back to school, that I was like, I'll go back to school if I don't have to pay for it. And a scholarship opportunity presented itself. And I was like, all right, Sonny, you told
Follow,
yourself,
Yeah.
follow it.
follow it and
And
see
here
what
you are
happens.
with your
Right.
podcast.
So it was again those things that sometimes it's a nudge, sometimes it's a you don't have a job anymore. So
Yeah.
here it is. Here's the push. So I
In the
love
Tarot,
that.
that's a tower,
Hmm.
right? In the Tarot, you had a tower movement. You had a
Yes.
tower movement. Maureen had her tower movement. And what I like to say about the tower, and then I want to hear about the dreams, is I don't think so. Tower moments can feel shattering and ungrounding, but they always lead you to do something different that you would not have done on your own.
Right.
We don't cause towers unless we usually don't cause towers for ourselves. We're not built that way. I think some people might, but so what I love about tower moments is the connection to Mary Magdalene, because Mary Magdalene, when she's referenced and her name, the meaning of it is the tower.
Mm.
Her name means tower. She watches, they reference her as watching over all of us, but she is the tower. But she is also the courageous, most courageous archetype divine feminine who actually lived. She was a real person. She was not a deity goddess, of which, there are many, but she was one of us. And her name means tower. And we have tower moments that lead us to courageous outcomes if we have eyes to see and ears to hear and the courage to act. And you were both describing that you had the eyes to see, you had the ears, and you did the hard things. Yeah.
Yes.
Probably need another podcast on dreams, but let us know how dreams, because I think dreams are complicated to interpret. But I guess if you do them long enough and journal about them long enough, do patterns show up?
Absolutely. Patterns show up, recurring images and symbols of things that you need to learn something from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you look at, some dreams are just, big dreams. They're just so vivid. Um, yeah, every little dream. Well, I think a lot of people tell me they don't remember their dreams. And that happens to me too. I don't remember every single dream, but if you are not, what you would call a dreamer and you remember a dream, there is something in there for you. Even if it
Mm-hmm.
sounds nonsensical, write it out. I highly recommend just getting a piece of paper. If you don't journal, just get a piece of paper and write it out, because when you put the words, dreams are very esoteric, they're very ephemeral. Things happen that are kind of nonsensical sometimes. But when you find a word, the words to describe it, sometimes just things go, oh, ah, you know, you can see the metaphor of
Yeah.
what's coming up, and it can be really helpful for you I feel like it's your higher self nudging you for things that you need to know
Mm,
about
wow.
And I would
relationship.
say an even modern version of that is take out your phone, pull up your notes, hit the voice record button, and
Okay.
say what you remember and lock it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, some people like me, we're not pen to paper in the middle of the night. I'm not searching to try and write it down, but
Yeah.
I have been trying to do much better at least opening up my notes, throwing it in there, or Googling something that will make me remember what I was dreaming about. Like, right, if it was sometimes I feel like for me in particular, it's like I'll like have weird dreams about snakes and water. And so I'll be like, or frogs. And I'll be like, oh my God, what does a frog mean? And so those are things that I make sure like I Google it, like, what does it mean if you dream about frogs? And then it'll kind of trigger everything that I was thinking about in the dream. So I can try to go back to sleep and not
Exactly.
disrupt myself too much by noting what happened.
I don't wake up in the middle of the night and write down my dreams. My kind of trick, and it works sometimes, is try to just give a title to the dream and then remember it. So like you, snakes. That simple word can maybe remind you. So if you go snakes, 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 maybe you'll remember that when you wake up. Yeah, it's not foolproof, but definitely the audio notes is a tool I use as well. Yeah.
Do you, there's a whole body of folks who do a ritual to plan for what they want to dream. So I'm one of those. I do my water ritual by my bed. I put the water by my bed, so we're talking through the night, and I ask to be shown. So I don't know if it's if I disrupt what naturally might have come if I went to sleep, but I always ask a question of myself and the water and ask that it be shown to me as I sleep, and it usually as my coming out of that, I get a one, two, or three words kind of thing. I don't always love what I see, but do you have any recommendations like that?
I just I, I don't have a ritual except that I just when I'm laying in bed just ask to be guided, just kind of like you're saying, if I have a question, a
Hmm.
really important question I need help on. So yeah.
I think putting water next to your bed too is if you say a little prayer over it and put it next to, I mean, you're in communion with that water all night long, and it's kind of protecting the space too from anything else coming around. So I love that you brought up dreams. I'm definitely going to add that. Sunny asks our kind of, do you have anything that feels unsaid before Sunny wraps into her? She has a question she asks at the end about references and stuff. Anything feel unsaid? It went so fast.
It did. It did. Um, no, I think really we hit the highlights.
They can find you on Amazon. They can find you on Spotify. They can find you at Luminous Spaces. And I'll have all of those references for everybody in there. And I'll tag the two books.
Thank you.
So yeah, just to circle back to water and sitting and having intention, was there a particular book or a song or a phrase or anything that kind of really helped you when you were feeling in that I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing? Is there something that kind of you want to share with the listeners that like maybe this would resonate with somebody else? This thing really helped me kind of just get through these moments of uncertainty until I really was able to wake up and really be like, this is the path. But you know what? I leaned on this thing. Is there anything like that you'd want to leave with us?
Well, definitely there is a phrase that I have always gone back to as such a powerful phrase for me to grow in general. And it is from Wayne Dyer. It is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah.
And I have to say that in this process of shifting my career, uh, it was absolutely a shift to authenticity and
Mm,
also this great invitation to see what was not working in my personal
Mm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything came apart.
Mm.
This wasn't just, oh, I lost my job. This was a several multi-year tearing down of Maureen, the mother, the wife, the friend, the whatever. All of Maureen got revamped. And
Podcast number two.
it's still stamping. I'm
Yeah.
still in upgrades in the process, but that one phrase, oh, I'm
Mm.
always coming back to. I find a lot of inspiration in that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think that even Maureen putting a number to it's been 22 years and still working
Yeah.
through it, because we had one of our first guests. She said that she was talking to her counselor and she was like, so I'm going to start doing this, but like, when do I know it's over? And so we're like, right, wouldn't that be great if you could mark off your calendar and say, by this date,
Right.
you're done, you did it, and then you will be whole again. And so I love
Yeah.
that it is what the essence of all of this is becoming. This is an
Yeah.
everlasting journey. And here you are 22 years in, still evolving, still changing, still learning. And so I think that's just such an amazing thing that we can take from all of this, that this is not going to be, I did it and I'm done. And look at me now. I had my moment and I worked through it. And here we are, brand new version, ready to go.
We wish it was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it will go on in the next lifetime and between
Yeah.
lifetimes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the
It,
most you can clean up here is great, right? The more authentic you can be here, what a sweet next version, right? I am so grateful for the way you articulated your story. I definitely think there's a podcast number two because the grist for the mill of all those little things of the upgrade moments and giving people kind of like what that took. But I'm going to close, Sunny, with asking you because it's your final in this round and in the way that it's structured right now. What are you feeling now? Maureen got to be a part of your final capstone moment. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. Um,
What are you
I
feeling?
think it is again kind of what we talked about, having this tower moment, that being open to something different. And again, for me, like I said, I had these rules and boundaries for myself that I'm not going back to school unless I do this, because I was like, I'm a parent, I have this, I go to work, and I was like, who has time for this new thing? And it presented
You're
itself.
done. And you're almost
And
done.
I am, 2 years in and getting ready to close this chapter for schooling, to be able to wait for my degree to show up in the mail and add my little letters at the end of my signature. But I think that what I have learned so much is to make sure that you are open-minded just to so many different things, because I think that we are taught, many of us from a young age, that this is the path. You go to school, you go to college, you get the job, you have the family, you do this, and you don't really get to take in the, well, what else is there for me? Do I get to have fun? Do I get to, and nobody tells you there's going to be catastrophic moments that happen in your life, but you stay on the path. Like, nobody has that conversation with you. Nobody tells you that, what,
Right.
something might happen that disrupts that, and you figure out that that thing that you were dabbling in is your new thing. So I think just kind of what, Tammy said, having the eyes and ears and the courage to learn who you are all over again is this leap that many of us, we aren't ready for sometimes. And then sometimes the energy, the universe, whatever it tells you, yeah, it's happening now.
Yeah.
This is it. It is going to be your moment where you are going to rediscover a different part of you. And so I think that through listening to so many stories of women that have had life-changing experiences and where they are now and where they continue to see themselves has just been again, such an eye-opening journey for all of us and all of our listeners to kind of take in. Yeah, it doesn't end at career, family. There's so much more out there, and if we are willing to take that leap into the non-structured, outside the box part of life, there's so much more living that we can do.
Yes. Well said. She always says the right thing. She gets in there, which I love. So can find Maureen on the web at Luminous Spaces, Amazon. I'll list everything for you, Spotify. I'll note everything in there. YouTube. Oh, big YouTube for sure. I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, see what's on the calendar for classes coming up, all the good stuff. Are you going to be anywhere locally or where are you going to be next?
Well, not online, virtually. I actually do have a free webinar coming up August 12th. So I'm not sure when this will,
Perfect.
but it is a live demonstration of me doing map dowsing and connecting
Perfect.
it with the intelligence of the land for one participant in the webinar. So we're
That's
just
perfect.
fix
I
them.
will put the link in there. If you send it to me, I'll put the link in so people can sign up also. That'll be good. Yeah. She's like, that's me. I'm the one.
Yeah.
I'm the one. Okay, this has been great. Appreciate it. I definitely think there's a part two. Are you working on another book?
I am, it's still in its infant stages, but it is about this consciousness evolution.
Yes, okay. This will be good. All right. It's bittersweet for to end this one. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Maureen, for joining us on our Becoming podcast. And we encourage you all to continue to like and subscribe, turn on your notifications so you can hear more Becoming stories. And thank you so much for being on this journey with me through my capstone project, sharing stories, learning about energy, learning about the healing process that so many of us are going through and experiencing, and that there is still so much for us to gain and learn from one another. So thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Tammy. And we encourage you to stay, tuned in because there's probably more to this than just this project. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in our next episode.